Right, in this video I'm going to show you how I took this crappy, boring, horrible paintwork, which did really look horrible, and transformed it into this. On the cheap, with nothing but rattle cans. This is my Beetle bonnet, and as you can see, it's a mess. It's got paint peeling off, it's got rust, it's got crap paint, and it's tired. It's got rust there, which looks pretty cool, but it's a sharp edge, so that's a roadworthy failure, so that needs repairing. So I'm going to repair this, and then we're going to paint it, and I'm going to do a patina paint job, and I'm going to use everything that I learned doing the rest of the car to do this properly. So now I finished the rest of the car, I know what to do and what not to do, and what looks really cool. Might have gone a bit too far there. As easy to get off as I thought. I might do that again. That's very dark. So I'm going to show you step by step on this bonnet. So first we're going to clean up all this mess and repair all the rust and stuff like that. I actually decided I'm going to leave that rust hole. I've smoothed it down so there's no sharp edges on it, and now I've rust primed it so that hopefully it might stop that from rusting too quick, because this bonnet's only temporary until I can find a nice fiberglass one with the proper front moulds in there. Or I may, when I get time, I don't have time now because I want to get the car on the road quick, I may actually use this bonnet as a mould. I may actually make the nice round inserts there, smooth all this out, and actually use this bonnet as a mould and make my own fiberglass one. So all this is just temporary at the moment, and I really like that rust hole, and it's a patina paint job, so the idea is to have rust, and these ones along here are pretty cool. So I've rust primed them, and hopefully we're just going to paint over the top of it. So I've been over it all with the trusty Ryobi Orbital Random Sander, which does a great job, and I've also wet flatted everything, so I've got my primer on the rusty spots still. So now I'm just going to hit it with some red oxide primer on the bits where I want the red oxide to pull through. So I put that on nice and heavy and nice and thick. I'm going to let that dry off for a few hours before I put the next coat of stuff on, and I'm going to take a photo so I can see where the red patches are, so I know when I'm rubbing it down what I'm aiming for. Right, that's been drying for a couple of hours. Now I'm going to hit it with this sort of orangey yellow, put another coat on it. Absolutely horrible yellow, but it covers this red oxide really well. Just for, because the actual proper yellow colour, it doesn't cover this red enough, and I'd have to put a lot of paint on to make it do it, and this gives it another little shade of orange when you rub the paint back. Right, now the horrible yellow's gone off in the summer sun, I'm going to put a top coat on. I'm going to use this, the good stuff.
It's the good stuff. None of that pussy Scott.
This is the actual colour of the car. So this is like the top coat. I do it like this with that horrible yellow first, because that horrible yellow was cheap and I got lots of it. And this doesn't cover dark colours very well, so I put that on first. And when you rub it down, it makes a really cool sort of orange glow to the red oxide underneath and makes it look really rusty. I put on fairly dry coats as well, because the idea here is not to get it to be shiny but more adhesion. It's more what I want, so I'm going to let this flash off, or I'm going to let it dry off actually, and then I'm going to hit it with another coat. Right, it's the next day and now this is hardened off. What I didn't do here was spend a lot of time with the red oxide primer. You can actually spend a bit of time making this look a little bit more orange by maybe putting a bit of orange and brown in it and some black to make it look a bit more like rust. But rust isn't really the look I'm going for here. It's more the worn out, sun scorched, worn paint look with a little bit of rust. I've actually also gone subtle with it as well, so if I want to add more I can rub it down more and add more, but at the moment this is how it is. So now it's just a case of getting the trusty Ryobi orbital sander and rubbing off the bits I want to rub off. This was much harder to rub down because I made a much better job of actually painting it and letting the primers dry in between coats and stuff. Hasn't come out as good as the rest of the car, I don't think. I probably am going to have to do something with the rust and fill that in. I might blow this in with an airbrush or something to make it look a bit more realistic, even though it's totally realistic because it is actually rust. But yeah, them holes are a bit too big, I reckon. I'm not sure yet. But like I keep saying, if I go subtle now, I can always go further later. But I've still got a wet flat it that's going to smooth everything out a little bit. I really want to get through to the darker red in a bit more places as well. But I'll wet flat it first and see what it looks like. I'm not sure if it's come out as well as the rest of the car actually. I don't know. I've actually gone through the metal in some places. I'm going to let that rust and then put lacquer over the top. So it's actually got a little bit of rust in there as well. But I've gone quite subtle on this because the bonnet it's a really cool shape and it does look good yellow. But I've tried to leave the bits where the paintwork's not too bad quite nice. But I've gone over and wet flatted it so it's taken the shine off of it. And yeah, but yeah, it looks alright, and I can always go a lot further. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit it on the car so I can look at it for a day or two while having a few beers and ponder on it. I actually normally have a couple of beers before I do this sort of thing, but I didn't for this. That's probably why it's not come out as good as the rest of the car. Or maybe it has. We'll have a look. That looks pretty cool. I really probably need to make it more rusty here just to match this a little bit. Not that in real life it makes that much difference because they're two different panels, but I just reckon There's too much of a harsh contrast between them two. This is all good. It's all artistic stuff which you can get quite carried away with, really. But yeah, that's probably a bit too much, that there. So that looks a bit better. Much happy with that now. The idea of this video is to give you inspirational ideas to do this sort of thing. You can do it anywhere, you can do it on a cheap, you don't need a workshop or the expensive equipment, and even a good starting base. So it's a really cheap paint job and it looks really cool, I reckon. I'm really pleased with how it's come out. If I did it again, I'd probably spend more time actually getting a sort of rust effect underneath. And once you've actually got your rust effect paint done, you can actually put a clear coat over it so that when you rub through, you don't rub through too much of it and actually rub your rust effect off. Like, using clear coat is like saving your work a little bit. It's all about layers and what layers you put on. I need to do a bit more work on the checks because you can see the marks there where the actual sanding disc has gone into it, so I really want to smooth them out a bit like that, but you just do that with different grades of sandpaper and wet and dry and stuff. I did use some other things to try and get different effects while I was practicing doing this paint job. I'll probably put other videos out about that, such as the mustard. I think that's going to give it quite a good effect, and how I did the checks and things like that. So watch out for them videos if they're not already out. I am going to do some worn sign writing on the door as well, so I'll probably use the mustard technique for that, and I'll show you all about that and how to get worn sign writing. This door here, it had some extra orange added to it because I wanted some highlights in it as well. So that's a pretty cool effect, and also even here where I've rubbed through to the blue colour and the primer below it, looks cool. And this is one of my favourite bits here as well. It's pretty cool. That's a metal edge there which is going to rust. So it's all good stuff. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment and all that good stuff. And have a great day.